As promised earlier, we're headed back down to the Omni Hotel in Dallas, and we're talking with University of Tennessee offensive lineman Cooper Mays joining us here on the show. First of all, nice tie, good looking suit.
Appreciate it, brother. I've worked hard on this.
I can tell you did. So, before we get into this football team that's about to take the field in a few weeks, how gratifying has it been for you growing up in Knoxville and watching Tennessee struggle in, 10, 15 years ago to be the group that has sort of ignited Neyland Stadium back to what it used to be?
It's been huge for me. Everybody talks about goals and everything, and obviously that's a championship, that's the expectation. But for me, a big goal of mine coming to Tennessee was to leave it a better place than I found it, and I feel like we've done a really good job of that. So I'm super happy with how my path, definitely wasn't the way I expected anything to go when I came to Tennessee at first, but couldn't be happier with how things have turned out.
So let's take that a little bit farther. What is it about Josh Heupel that has been at times almost like magic for your program?
Well, I think he's done a really good job relating to us players and building trust with us. And then moreover, he's a guy that knows ball, at a really high level. And, when you have high levels of talent and playmakers and people that can make stuff happen, an offensive minded guy like Coach Heupel can make a lot of moves with that. And, I think that's what you've seen in our offense.
Go back 2 years ago when you guys beat Alabama in Knoxville. It felt like a little bit of knocking down the Berlin Wall, and the scenes on television were incredible. The fireworks at the end, the whole 9 yards. Give me a memory or two of that game.
Oh man, my biggest memory was just watching. Well, obviously you watch Jalen Hyatt have 5 touchdowns. I mean, that was pretty crazy and sick as it is, But I just remember seeing the kick go up and seeing the way it was rolling. It was tumbling in the air. It wasn't didn't look like a normal kick. It looked like it gotten tipped, and I think it did get tipped. But I definitely thought we had missed the kick, and I was preparing myself for overtime when I see everybody erupt and the referees put their arms up, and it was a special moment. Definitely something I'll never forget.
You played with a guy that I honestly believe should have gotten way more Heisman Trophy attention in Hendon Hooker. When did you know that it was going to be like snapping a finger with Hendon Hooker and everything works?
Oh man, probably probably that season, that 2022 season. 2022 is when we beat everybody, right?
Yeah.
So probably the 2022 season when we played Florida. He kind of we had won some games that year and pulled out a tough one at Pitt, but things didn't really just click easily that game. We really grinded that one out and ended up winning in overtime. But man, from Florida on, it seemed like it just worked. You'd be blocking and then you see Jalen Hyatt running for like 60 yards wide open, and you'd be like, how does somebody let that happen? And it just seemed like stuff like that kept happening, and it was really fun to play that way.
And so now you've got a guy that's got a lot of hype around him in Nico, and it feels like he's going to be another one where you just snap your fingers and good things happen. Talk to me about what you've seen of him since he's been there.
The biggest thing is just the type of kid that Nico is. Nico is just a real class act, and you can tell he's been raised the right way, and just takes every opportunity he can to learn from others and be humble and ask questions. From the first day he got on campus, he's been like that. So that's probably been the most outstanding thing that I've seen from him.
I want you to talk to me. It's almost like I'm going to turn you into a coach here. Under Heupel, and he's the first guy I ever saw do this, where he took wide receivers that normally would line up at the numbers and take them dadgum near the press box, right at the edge of being in bounds. What is it about that becomes such a big advantage?
I think, it obviously spreads the field out, so your runs have a little bit more chance to bust and kind of split the safeties because all the coverage is out wide, and then that's one aspect of it. And then the second aspect of it is you got to make DBs run all over the field. When it's hard for, I'm not that I've ever played DB before, but I'm sure after chasing somebody down 50 yards and then having to go back, you got to run all the way across the field and do it again. Can't be easy. And I think we kind of use those splits as an advantage to take advantage of DBs and how out of position they are.
I see they're about to get you to go to another talk, and get ready. You'll get better questions other places. Tell me about this year. College football playoff says that the top 12 get there. And a lot of people think you all are right on that edge right now of being able to get into that. What's it going to take to knock down that door?
Man, I would just say just being consistent is the biggest thing. You play in a division like the SEC, in a conference like the SEC, you don't have any room for error really. So I would say just being consistent every single week, trying to pull out W's and just go 1-0 every week. That's what it will take.
Yeah. Tell me about your offensive line. Everybody says it's going to be a massive strength for you guys.
Yeah, I would say they're correct in my opinion. I would say that we've got strength and amount of time played, just age in general, and experience goes a long way, especially in our position group. So, the more experience you have and the more returning starters you have will bode well for you.
Listen, I appreciate you taking the time. God only knows how many of these you're going to have to do. Um, but I like the tie and
Appreciate it, brother.
well dressed. Cooper,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
No doubt. Thank y'all for having me.
Cooper Mays joining us here on the show, and we thank him for taking the time. We'll come back to actually talking about what's going on at SEC Media Days after we remind you you're listening to the George Plaster Show on 95.9 FM.